Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and out of the ring, doing acts of service, charity work, community service work, paying it forward. We're all about the positivity here. And with me today is a very special guest. She is a former Shimmer champion, former tag team champion, WSU tag team champion, JAPW women's champion, and MCW women's champion, among others. She's worked with so many different organizations, and I'm very pleased to welcome to the show, Kimber Lee. Welcome to the show.
Hello, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, the pleasure's all mine. So tell me about your childhood. Where did you grow up?
Oh, we're going all the way back, right from the beginning. Okay, so I am originally from Seattle, Washington. So that is where I grew up. I'm a West Coast girl, kind of grunge spirit at heart. So yeah,
all right.
That's where I started out.
Yeah. So Washington, okay. Yeah, lots of stuff going on there. Seattle, is that where you said you were from?
Yep, I am from Seattle.
Okay. I was actually going to Seattle, planning on going to Seattle a couple of years ago, during the thick of COVID, unfortunately, when this was going to happen. So, yeah, not the best time to go, but yeah, I hope to make it up there one day. I think it'll be pretty fun. Seems like there's a lot to do.
Yeah, it's definitely a really cool city. I mean, if you get the opportunity, I say take it. It's the whole Pacific Northwest area. I don't think people know enough about. So
yeah, they got the big Space Needle.
Yes, yes, they do.
Big Space Needle. All right. So, what got you interested in professional wrestling? Was it just something you watched, on your own, or did you have friends that watched with you, got you into it?
So how I got interested in professional wrestling was, I was never allowed to watch it as a kid. My mom said no. But when I was growing up, it was the Attitude Era, so I kind of get it. I would go. I had a particular set of friends that they watched it all the time, and I would sneak over to their house, and that's how I would get to watch wrestling. So that's how that worked for me. I remember with the little bit I did catch here and there, China was always my favorite, rest in peace. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. It was kind of when I was younger. I want to say I was around like 9, 10, 11 when I was watching it. Then it kind of tapered off for a while. And then when I moved from Seattle to Philadelphia to go to college, that's how I kind of so it's just kind of a roundabout convoluted story how I ever ended up training. And I don't know if that's where you wanted my question to go, but I headed that way. So here we go. I ended up moving from Seattle to Philadelphia to go to college. I went to University of the Arts in Philadelphia for dance education. So while I was going to school there, I got an after-school job working at a haunted house that happened to be right behind the ECW arena, just happenstance. Because I was working there and was working with just like Philly kids, it wasn't college kids because none of us were from Philly, but the kids working in the haunted house were. I ended up making a really good friend. Her name is Melissa. We're still best friends to this day. And she took me to a wrestling show. And that's kind of how that all happened. When I went to the show, because I didn't know there was anything other than WWE until that moment.
Oh yeah,
because I was completely ignorant to it.
Yeah.
That
all kinds of promotions.
Yeah, no, it's like once that door opens, but so I remember she was like, "Do you want to go to the show, like wrestling show with me?" And I was like, "Oh, like WWF?" I didn't even know there was a name change like that. She's like, "No, not like that at all. Totally different." Because I want to say it was a CZW show we ended up at. But and so totally different. And I ended up going to a show with her. Through her, I ended up meeting Drew Gulak, because I don't know, she knows everybody. So I ended up meeting Drew Gulak and then getting into the conversation about training, and the rest is history.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you really defied authority there, getting into the yeah, not letting your mom, sneaking to watch it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was like the hotbed in terms of pop culture for pro wrestling. I mean, so many people got into it. Men, women, kids. I mean, it was a crazy time. I mean, not just for the WWE, but you had WCW around, you had ECW, you had all the indie promotions. Wrestling was on television and the media. It was crazy. It was nonstop. Everywhere you looked, there was wrestling going on. That had to, taking it all in, man, was. I bet it was a lot.
It was. It definitely was. But I mean, hey, I'm still here. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, China definitely was a pioneer in terms of women in wrestling and how um she was just such a wonderful, not only great character but a great human being as well. From what I had heard and read, but she definitely changed the way a woman should be portrayed, I guess. She was doing all these sorts of things. She was competing for world championships, intercontinental titles, managing probably one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and Triple H, and working with Eddie Guerrero, and all these different things. So she definitely was an icon. Definitely a great influence for sure. For anyone, not just women, but men too. Anyone. I mean, she really changed the
yeah.
landscape of professional wrestling.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And I mean, it's part of why I became the wrestler that I did, and why I fought so hard for, and still do, for intergender wrestling, and why that's because watching China, she was in there beating up the dudes. And so I was like, that's what I want to do. And they were like, but you're, China was like, you're 5'3", Kim, like, calm down. It's like, I'm going to do it. And I did. So
Do you feel intergender wrestling should be a normal thing, or should it happen often? Do you feel it should be a
I
side
think
thing?
no, I think it should be completely normal. I'm very much for the equal rights, equal fights. If
Mm-hmm.
you, uh, and it comes to the fact of, like, I don't know, like, it just gives so much more, like, we're a performance art, if you really want to break it down. The way I look at wrestling, and it when you add that story element, it brings so much more that you can do, in my opinion. And just it's like watching a Wonder Woman movie or something like that, where she's beating up it's the perfect story. The underdog beats this giant villain, the David and Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
You see it everywhere. And I don't know, I really like that story, and I can
Yeah,
watch that story be told over
it's a
and over and
classic
over again.
story. Yes.
And so I think that people get a little too serious with wrestling sometimes. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
know it is a serious thing, somewhat, like, we're meant to make it serious, but at the same time, it's one of the things where you can suspend your disbelief and go outside of reality for a minute, and the princess can beat the giant. Like,
Yeah.
it's a cool
Yeah.
thing. And so I think it should be a regular thing, and shouldn't be frowned upon or
Mm-hmm.
considered domestic violent, because it's not. We're a
Yeah.
performance art, we're stunt athletes, we're
Mm-hmm.
sports entertainment. It's different.
Right.
So
Right.
let it
Right.
be different.
Yeah. Were there, other than China, who else were you influenced by? Who are some of the other people you enjoyed watching?
Oh, well, when I was sneaking around and watching it, I also liked Lita a lot, and the Hardy Boys. Um, Big fan of, like, Y2J Jericho era, the little hair. I love that. And then the Brood. I remember the Brood. Um, so those are kind of some of the ones that I remember from back then.
Yeah.
But, and of course, like, Stone Cold, The Rock, like, Triple H. Who
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
love them? But like that whole so the
Yeah,
Attitude Era was good. I mean, it was a lot of fun to watch it. But like
it
once
was.
I started training, my favorites definitely shifted to more of like the Joshi wrestlers. I love Jumping Bomb Angels. I love Mieko Satomura, Minami Toyota, uh, like Aja Kong, like some of those, and then like that Joshi style kind of became more of my influence once I started
Yeah.
watching Independence, and Sarah Del Rey was my favorite of all time. So
It's very interesting to see, growing up, you see different styles of wrestling. It's very fascinating to me. There's more than to see more than just one, because you're used to seeing one a lot of times, in the mainstream. And once you look at different promotions, they may not be as accessible, but they can offer something that you can go, gee, wow, this looks pretty nice. I want to see more of this.
hmm yeah, for sure.
Tell
Yeah.
me about, tell me about how training went for you. Was it easy, hard, in the middle?
Um, Training was tough. It was super tough on me. I started training in 2009. I didn't have a match until 2011. So it took me 2 years before I was ever allowed to have a wrestling match.
I
Um,
gotcha.
because I was the first female student that Drew Gulak. I was his first student ever. But
Mm,
on top of that, I was a female. So he
yeah.
was extra like, you're gonna be perfect before anybody sees you do anything. And he kicked my ass. Like I didn't have another girl to train with, but I was expected to do all the same drills, like running around with people in firemen's carries, doing laps, crazy. Like people had to, we had he's insane. First of all, if you've watched any of his stuff, he's out of his
Oh yeah.
friggin' mind.
Yeah.
And so like some of the drills he had us doing, I was just like, are you kidding me? And like, but I figured it out, and I made it. And like, I remember cussing him out so many times, like in my head. But like now, I love you, Drew. Like we've become like uh, really close, and like
Hmm.
even still, like he'll check in on me every once in a
That's
while. We
nice.
always catch up and
That's
see what's
great.
going on. But yeah, training was really tough because I was expected to do everything the same, even though I was a girl. They didn't care. They were like, if okay, girl, if you want to play with the boys, then come on, like you're gonna play with the boys. So, and I wouldn't want it any other way because it taught me so much having my training go like that.
So 2011, you started wrestling. You started having matches. Tell me about any memories you recall of your early days as a wrestler.
I was pretty terrible. I remember that. And I remember like right before I was supposed to start wrestling, I broke my hand. And then that set me back like for 8 weeks. But my first match was god awful. Like rain, like just it was bad. Like, oh my God. But I think every single wrestler will say that it's like, oh God, my first match. And like, but I even like I'll look at a match from a couple years ago and I'll be like, oh gee, oh, like I don't know. It's always been difficult for me to watch my own stuff. I don't watch it as much as like some other people. Some other people really watch to critique. I'm like, nah, I did it, it's done. Like somebody else can watch it and tell me their critiques, and then like I don't need to. But um yeah, I'd say it was just yeah, that's all I got for you with that
All right.
question. So
Okay. So, but you got better over time. You started,
yeah.
getting your reps in.
Yeah,
Who are?
as we all do, as we all
Yeah,
do.
of course. So, who are like some of your favorite opponents to work with?
Some of my favorites of all time to work with will be female wise, Nevaeh. She's always been one of my favorite to work with. Um, just we've always had great chemistry in the ring. Early on in my career, I worked with Mae Young a lot, and we had a great series of matches. And then, of course, the artist formerly known as Heidi Lovelace, Ruby Soho. Her
Hmm.
and I had a long history together, and she
Yeah.
will forever be my favorite opponent. Recently, actually, at a Comic-Con, we ran into each other and we did one thing, but yeah.
And you've wrestled some guys too, right?
Oh yeah.
Of course, got to
Favorite,
mention that too.
yeah, some of my favorite male opponents, probably Mike Bennett. That was a really fun match. My like long forever feud with Chris Dickinson will forever be some of my favorite matches, and that was the chair shot and whatchamacallit move where he threw me across the ring, like heard around the room, around the world. Pazuzu bomb, there it is.
Okay.
Pazuzu bomb heard around the world. Like that video went viral and World Star Hip Hop and all types of craziness. But
wow.
So that was definitely a favorite. And then of course Drew Gulak, also one of my favorite opponents. And then I'd say Hollow Wicked too, the match with Hollow Wicked where I won the grand championship. So even though it was like less than a minute long, still one of the greatest moments in my career.
You find it harder to wrestle guys or easier or
different. I wouldn't say it's harder or easier. It's just challenging in a different way. You have to think differently. But I mean, I don't think I've ever looked at as an opponent based on whether they're male or female. It's just, okay, well, this particular person is taller than me and has like this much more power than me. So what am I going to do to survive?
Sure.
Or this person's about equal to me, so we can tit for tat a little more. Like, yeah, that's always how I look at it.
Now, you've had a lot of success in companies like Shine, Shimmer, and Chikara. Any fond memories of working in those promotions?
Oh yeah, tons. I mean, I'm still working for Shine. They haven't ran in a few months, but I believe we're coming back soon. And then Shimmer, I have some of my best memories. When I first started wrestling, that was the only championship I ever wanted to win. And being on that very short list of females that have been able to hold that title. And I've also been a tag team champion there, which that list is even shorter. It's an honor. And
absolutely.
To be potentially the last match of the last ever Shimmer show too, is quite a thing, because we at this point it is unknown if it will ever come back, which is unfortunate. And then Chikara will forever, as difficult as some things are surrounding Chikara, it's forever going to hold one of the softest spots in my heart. I went to Europe with those were my brothers and my sister, because there was Heidi, like, so so it was my brothers and my sister, and that was like, we went all over the country together. Like, I was there at the time where we would do like 6-7 show loops and just drive together and all be locked in a van and ready to kill each other, and like crammed into a hotel room with like 5 of us in there, and and nobody sleeping, and then spending 3 weeks in Europe with these fools, like just getting into just absolute trouble, but all in good fun. And like, there's memories from those trips and those with those people that I'll never forget, and they're definitely fond and will be held dear for a long time.
seems like you guys were like a family, united.
Yeah. At one point we definitely were.
Yeah, I mean that's always good to have, have that bond, that camaraderie. It seems like you guys really had that going.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. And you also had spend some time in WWE for a little bit. I know you were in NXT. Got to participate in the first ever Mae Young Classic. That had to be a pretty awesome experience.
Yeah, it was an experience. It was what it was. I learned a lot while I was there. No one will be ever able to take away from me the fact that I was in the first Mae Young Classic, and I made it to the top 8 of the first Mae Young Classic, and that's a piece of history that I'm written in forever, and that's pretty pretty damn cool. Are there things I would have liked to change about being there? Sure, but I wouldn't trade the experience that I had for the world, and I'm grateful that I did get to experience what I did. So
And I believe you also had a run in Impact too shortly after that.
I did, technically still do. So I you know, it's never say never with Impact. That door is not shut completely. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. But
Yeah.
wonderful place to be. Um you love like I loved everybody there, from like the people writing stories to our makeup artists to like all of the different wrestlers, to like another place that really felt like a family, more so than other places I have been. So
Yeah. So outside of wrestling, I know you've done a lot of charity work and community service work. Tell me about some of the organizations you've helped out with over the years.
I mean, there's been a lot of different ones. I've done a lot of different races for a lot of different causes, but I'm going to focus on one that is going on right now and will be continuing for quite some time because it has become a cause that is very near and dear to my heart. There is a charity organization called Jar of Hope, and what it is raising awareness for is Duchenne's muscular dystrophy, which most people never hear about it or have any idea what it is. It is a form of MD that is very, very rare, and is a genetic mutation on the X chromosome. So, because of that, it typically only occurs in males. And it's a muscle wasting disease, and these little boys who are affected with it don't typically make it much past their teen years, and there's not a cure. Um, I was fortunate enough to meet the founder of this particular charity, Jar of Hope. His name is Jim Raffone, and his son Jamesy is who he created the charity for, because he is one of the children who has Duchenne's. And I believe he just turned 12 or 13, like a couple weeks ago, because Jim put up a post. But what Jim does is different extreme challenges to raise awareness for Duchenne's. And he's done push-up challenges, which that I believe, stay tuned. There's going to be more about the push-up challenge stuff very, very soon. So there's push-up challenges. He's done him and another group of gentlemen just climbed Mount Everest, and there's going to be a documentary about that to raise awareness. They've done, I know there's like a boxing challenge coming up. The challenge I did for them, what most recently was, I did the Dopey challenge at Disney World. So I ran 48.6 miles in 4 days. We raised over $2,000. I did personally. I want to say made like 89,000 as a team during that run. And then I'm currently trying to raise $600 more. I've gotten 100 so far, before April, when I run another 10 miles for Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. So Jar of Hope, jarofhope.org. Check them out.
Yeah. Yeah, I spoke with Lexi Fife. She's been on the show, and we were talking
Yeah.
about her helping out with that charity. So that's pretty awesome that you
Yes,
guys are
Lexi
doing
and
that.
I did it together. Her and I, we do a lot of our running things together. We're actually running Gasparilla on Sunday, so another race together. But so it's definitely both of us. It's become very near and dear to our heart. So
Yeah.
and
Why?
there's some other cool things coming for Jar of Hope. So just keep your eyes and ears out. That also blend into the wrestling world. So
Yeah, it's very exciting. Why are you so passionate about helping out in your community?
um because I feel like, I don't know if there's any. That's a tough question. It's a loaded one, I guess. If there's anything I leave behind in this world, I can get as much, like, stuff has never mattered to me. Having a bunch of crap, like, I don't care. I've lived on couches. I've had less than $10 in my pocket. Like, I've even as recently as within the last year of my life, have lost everything and had to start over.
Oh, really?
I don't care. I don't care
Huh.
about stuff. Um, and so to me, if doing something physical and using the platform that I've been fortunate enough to build over the last 14 years to bring awareness for something that does good in the world, that's what I want to be remembered for, not she looked cute in that outfit. Like, like I want to leave something that means more than that. And so
Yeah.
that's why I'm so passionate about helping out in any way I can. And
Yeah.
I've never been rich. I've never had a lot of money. And so the way I can help is by doing stupid amounts of running in a very short amount of time and telling everybody about it. So
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have those passions. I mean, you seem very passionate about helping people, also passionate about wrestling. And women's wrestling's definitely taken off in the last 10 plus years. There seems to be a market for it. What do you see the evolution of women's wrestling being going forward?
I think it still definitely has a long way to go. I think there is still a little, like, I understand aesthetic is part of wrestling on all levels. I think it is getting to more of a time where it is more all inclusive, but I still think there's more to go. I think there's more to go, and I think
Yeah, of
women still
course.
need to be like I said, I want to see it where intergender isn't even like questioned anymore. Like, everybody
Yeah.
shut up. It's 2023. Like,
It's like a movie. You're going to a
like,
movie, you're seeing two people fight. Doesn't have to
right.
be doesn't have to
It is
be a man on man or a woman on woman. It
it
could
is a
be
suspension of disbelief.
That's right.
Let it go. Don't be
Yeah.
so literal for a couple minutes. Escape reality. That's what we're here to do, is to help you escape reality. So stop being so literal, people.
Yeah. Hey, Kimberly, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. It means a lot to me and the listeners. Where can people find you on social media?
Yes. Okay. So my social media is all one handle. I have an Instagram, I have Twitter, and I now have TikTok. I've been doing TikTok for a while. Those are the three places you can mostly find me. And my handle is at Kimber_Lee. Lee 90. And I also, if you want the more spicy things, have an OnlyFans. So you can find me on onlyfans.com/Kimber_Lee 90. So that's where you can find me.
All right. And any shows coming up you want to promote?
At the moment I have been on a break just because I needed to.
Yeah.
I haven't done that in 14 years. It was time. But start looking around for me in April. That's the projected date. So
All right.
nothing oh, except the one thing that I will be doing soon is I will be in Richmond, Virginia for Fantasy Super Cosplay Wrestling at the Galaxy Con there. I don't remember the exact dates, and the calendar isn't in front of me, but FSCW, end of March, Virginia, Galaxy Con.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I
I'll
appreciate
share.
it.
Yeah, I'll be sure
And
to send the video and you can share it on
oh
social
yeah, I
media.
absolutely will.
All righty. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.